coming at you live from the depths of the Hive. We are back, and it's Saturday morning.
Good morning, good morning. We are live from the Hive. I hope everyone is well. It looks like I got a good crowd already waiting for me to talk. And maybe it was the baiting you guys with the the headline about the feathered dinosaurs and the gay agenda. Is that what brought you to the Hive this morning? If it is, we're not getting at that to the very end, because I am equally stoked to talk about that, and I have a lot to say. But we have a whole show to get through before we get to Hive Science, where I've decided to stick that because I couldn't think of any other better place for it to go than into Hive Science, because we're going to talk about why, whether or not something is. I'll get into it when I get there. I don't want to give away any spoilers until we get there, but it's quite the wild ride. We'll just leave it at that. I just want to say good morning to everybody, because I see again a great crowd starting out here. We had Ginny Morgan. You were first. Yes, you were. Congratulations. What did she win? She won being the first one in the chat. We have so basically 411 returning to us again. Good morning, my friend. We have Cyrenus Edmonds, patron, as you can see, and friend of the Hive running below. And I need to give you a wrench, because all my patrons should have wrenches in the live chat. I think that's a good standard to set. So I will get to that before the end of the stream. Just don't want me to forget. Greg Hartwick, always a pleasure to see you in the mornings. We have Ring. We have John Hudson, Native Atheist. Good crowd this morning. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming in and hanging out with me in the Hive today. We have a lot of great stuff to talk about. After we do our bug of the week, we'll get to CryptoCorner, where we're going to look at sea monsters. So that'll be fun. And then in Creation Watch today, we have a returning, one of my favorite Catholic apologists, but this time they're saying some stuff that I think is maybe dangerous and needs to be addressed directly, and we will get to that as well. And then, of course, as I was saying in Hive Science, we are going to talk about the feathered dinosaur gay agenda and all the attachments that come with that. But first and foremost, I just want to take a moment to bask in this. I am very much feeling more confident in myself and in my appearance now that my hair has come in, and and I'm feeling really good about this transitioning thing. So for the people who may be new to the channel, again, come here from the tweet about the dinosaur agenda. May not know, but I'm a trans woman. I've waffled about for the last few months in non-binary territory, just because I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to take my identity. But we are here now, and I am just ready to be me and to engage with everybody as the real me, as visually and what I'm presenting and putting out there, to be matching more so with who I am on the inside. So thank you, everybody, for being an ally and a friend. If you're not an ally and a friend, thank you just for listening to my point of view. I really do appreciate it. It's been an uphill battle. This was the first week this week that I went to work, because that was my week to go into the office. Went to work presenting as a woman. To be completely blunt, I did not use women only spaces or anything like that. They don't. That's not really an issue at the place that I work, because the population is 85% women, so there's not a lot of pressure there. I don't know that if everybody was happy, and I mean, when you come out, when you go into a workplace and you come out as trans, the allies seem to find you immediately. I was not swarmed, but there was just maybe a handful of people who are just really wanting to make sure that I know that they are my ally and they support what I'm doing, and they're gonna stand up for me, and it's really nice to see that. Now everybody else is quiet. So, are they making judgments? Are they silently disgusted? Are they silently supportive? I don't know. I just don't know. But I have to do this. I can't not do this. I'm at a place in my life where I can't not do this anymore. Oh my goodness, I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm ready to just be out. I'm ready to stop being me in private. So here I am. Hi, I'm Bree. That was my thing at work today. My hair is going wild. It's because I took a shower right before I went to bed, so my hair was all floofy this morning and almost impossible to tackle and tame. We are starting to see more bugs outside as well, so we are probably going to be featuring more clips and maybe some shorts. We're going to have clips on Life in the Hive as well, of backyard safari stuff. So we will get back into the backyard safari this summer. I know we didn't do it very much last summer, but I was going through a lot last summer. I did do some backyard safari. I did the backyard safari where we did the Arkansas stuff, where we had the different stuff that I caught down there that we don't really have up here too much. So yeah, there's that. But I'm cutting way too much into our bug of the week time. So I think that it's time, don't you? Don't you guys think it's time to move into bug of the week, to find out who the winner was? Because we did do a poll. The poll went up everywhere but YouTube. And I didn't do that on purpose. I totally forgot to put it up on my YouTube channel. So the poll was run through, of course, the Patreon, where everybody gets a double vote, through Facebook and Twitter. And there's no sense in even putting up the numbers because the winner was clear. So it's time to get started. Let's get started at Bug of the Week, because this is one of my favorite natives here. All right. So I'm going to tell you a story. It's probably a story you've heard before. I know that you guys have heard this story before, but we're going to tell it anyway, because the beginnings are always important to understand what we get in the end. All right. On a maple leaf, not under the moonlight though, but in the sunshine for this particular incident, on a leaf there lay some eggs. Now these eggs aren't white like the ones in the book, like the ones in The Very Hungry Caterpillar, which I'm quoting. These ones are yellow. Just a little cluster of eggs. Generally, each cluster's ranging between 10 and 60 eggs. They are on the bottom of a specific kind of leaf, though. It's a maple leaf. Now, when these little guys hatch, you don't just get one very hungry caterpillar. You get a horde of very hungry caterpillars. And for the first 2 or 3 instars, they stay this way. An instar, by the way, take note of this. Maybe I need to have BugBot add this into the commands. And instars are the growth segments for arthropods. Actually, let me pop back out into big screen just real quick, and then we'll come back to bug. Okay, instars are so bugs, arthropods in general, don't grow through their life. They don't get bigger as they're moving along. They grow a bigger version of themselves underneath their skin, shed that off, and then there's a new, slightly larger, chitin armored body underneath. So, yeah, that is an instar, and some insects have a specific set of instars. Most insects have a specific set of instars they go to. Now, in most of them, the adult phase is the final instar, and that's it. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's get back into our very, very hungry caterpillars. So you get this horde of little caterpillars on the leaf, and they just eat it all up. They will. Each one of these little babies, by the time they grow up, they can defoliate they'll eat a whole leaf, or sometimes even 2 leaves, depending on what species of tree they are. Now, it's mostly maple trees for this, and it's in the name of the animal. But they do also do oak trees if they find themselves on them. They aren't picky in that sense. Oak trees or maple trees are the main targets of these little caterpillars. But they munch down on these leaves. By about the 3rd instar, they separate out, and they're looking a little bit different. They're plumper and greener, and they have these white little racing stripes running down the back of them. They have a big red clown nose, but they're still munching and munching away, and that clown nose is not actually the nose, it's the whole head. It just looks like a clown nose on this individual because of the way that it's got those black areas above the head. Anyhow, still hungry though. He is still hungry. So he's eating his own maple leaf. He's moved away from his brothers and sisters, and has decided to go and munch by himself until he's full and tired. Then he makes himself a little chrysalis, and this is not a chrysalis, a cocoon. Now this is a difference in these moths compared to some other species of moths. Now this moth is in a family called Saturnidae. Now Saturnidae are the huge silk moths. They're the ones we've talked about silk moths on bug of the week before, and there are some of the largest moths in the world are silk moths. But our little friend, our rosy maple moth, is the smallest of the silk moths, the tiniest. This is a tiny little fella, and that's a fingertip for scale. Because you couldn't put a banana for scale because it's so tiny. They're about, they can get about 2 inches of wingspan, which is not super tiny, but not anything to write home about. And they are definitively the smallest of the silk moths. They don't eat as adults. No, Saturnidae do. So if you were wondering, the big floofy moths, when you're seeing them as adults, they're not eating. Their only goal in life in that last imago stage is to find a mate and breed. So that's their goal. So they're not hanging around your lamp to try to feed on anything. They're just there looking for love. And aren't they so adorable? Look at their floofiness. They mature into this distinct color patterns. Now their color pattern, obviously they are variable, but they're usually this pink and yellow color. There is a subspecies that is indigenous to Missouri that is actually a little bit different, and it's called it's I'm gonna try to pronounce the name. It's Dryocampa rubicunda is the binomial nomenclature for this particular moth. And the subspecies I'm talking about has alba on the end because it's a white, or not the species, the subspecies, alba on the end because it's has this white coloration with just a faint amount of pink on it, and that mutation has taken hold in the population, and to the point where we have a whole population that fits these characteristics. Now, as they grow, they spend their whole life on the same tree until they become an adult, and then they fly away to mate. Now, they don't just mate once. They lay eggs multiple times throughout the warm seasons and propagate and spread their species. And they are well spread indeed, because they, as far as North America goes, they are stretching from Canada, the land of the maple. So it's not a surprise they spend some time up there, all the way down to Florida, west to Texas, and then I believe north all the way up to Canada again. So a nice big square of locations for these animals to be located and thrive in. And there's a lot of deciduous forest which they need in order to propagate. So that is our bug of the week. That was the rosy maple moth. I hope you enjoyed these floofy, adorable, maybe the most adorable, maybe the most adorable moth. I don't know. There's some pretty damn adorable moths out there. I know we talked about the silk moths, and they're adorable, and we still have a few up our sleeves to go over. So don't think this is the end all be all of covering moths, or even silk moths specifically, because we are so far from done. But that was, the Dryocampa rubicunda, the rosy maple moth. All right. So what do we do next? What do we do after bug of the week? And we actually managed to tack on a little extra time for this topic too. I just needed to get a drink of my coffee. I'm thinking about putting maybe some different clips or videos between each segment to allow for a smoother transition. Let me know if that's something that you all would prefer, as opposed to how I've been doing things. Just because I don't not that one. Just because I don't I don't know. Poodle moth ring. Yes, we will have to talk about the poodle moth, the Venezuelan poodle moth. We will have to talk about it, and there's a lot to say about it. Whether it should go on bug of the week or CryptoCorner or Cryptic Corner, because I changed the name Cryptic Corner because I don't want to be associated with crypto bros. I don't want people, to mistake my channel or my show, the CryptoCorner or Cryptic Corner show, for a crypto show and just scroll past it. If you're interested in cryptozoology, I've been 14 topics, paranormal, supernatural, ghostly, and extraterrestrial topics, then Cryptic Corner is for you. We don't talk about cryptocurrency here. We talk about monsters and the mayhem surrounding them, and supernatural powers from beyond, and voices from beyond the grave, creatures from another world. That's the topic we have here. So it's going to be Cryptic Corner from now on, because we talk about those cryptic sightings that people report from the beyond. All right, and today, continuing our TikTok month, inspired by our one and only D Parks, we are looking at TikTok hashtag sea monsters. So, our very first video reads, "Disturbing thing caught by drone." I think this one has a narrator. I'm gonna let it play for a second, see if it's stupid robotic. I might just mute it and tell you what I see, or probably we'll watch it through more than once anyway. But here's the first one, very first thing starting off.
Disturbing things caught by drones. In this 2015 drone footage, several officials in hazmat suits are on the bank of a river in Poland, performing some unknown functions. Suddenly, 4 of them appear to be lifting something pretty heavy from the ground. As they move towards the paramedics with their mysterious finding, a huge fishtail can be seen poking out from behind, suggesting a monstrous sea creature. The hazmat people then return to the water's edge before climbing back up the hill and helping push the stretcher away, out of view. Disturbing things caught by drone.
All right, so let's unpack this. We've got some folks, not in hazmat suits, I wouldn't say. They're, I mean, I guess it could be hazmat suits. It looks like, what they're grabbing, though. I don't know if I'd say it's a fish tail. It's kind of big in proportion to the rest of the organism to be a fish tail. I don't know. Let me see. So they pick it up, and here's where I don't think it looks like a fish tail. Look at that right there. We're gonna back it back up. See right there, that doesn't look like that from that angle. It does not look like a fishtail. It almost looks like narrow, I want to say limbs, but they aren't flat paddled like a fishtail or a marine mammal. They're kind of rounded and individually lobed. I think they look like maybe tetrapod limbs. It's in a weird position though. But that's probably about the best view you get of it right there. And then they're right in the middle with the freaking play button on the middle of it. Thanks, TikTok. I don't know what this one is. It could be a sketch. It could be I don't want to say like an outbreak of some kind of disease or anything, but it could be a dead animal. I'm not sure on this one. I don't think it looks like a monster. I don't think it looks like because the claims are, oh, it's a mermaid. It's a mermaid, but I think the proportions are wrong. That what they're calling the tail there. It seems to make up at least a third of the mass of the organism. So what they're calling the tail is a lot of what the body of the organism is. I don't know. You tell me in the side chat, in the comments below, what do you think this one is? Because I'm not sure. Honestly, and I don't say that too much. Usually I come up with some kind of theory. But I don't think it looks like a mermaid, or I don't think it looks like a fish either. I don't think it looks like anything aquatic. I think the location of the riverbanks might be circumstantial. But I don't know. So, yeah, that was that one. He's ready to move on. This one's just a fun one. Tell me what you guys think of this. It's really short. This one's only like 17 seconds. Fisherman. Cast his line up under the hills there. Boom. Oh yeah. And that eel is not messing around. Because that's not many people making speculations on this. A lot of speculation that it could be a catfish or an eel. I think it's an eel just based on the tail structure mostly. Because that's what pops up out of the water right about there. Oh, went a little too far. Right about there. That looks like an eel tail to me. So this one, yeah, has I don't know if that's on a baby duck lure. It doesn't look like it, but I've watched some of these guys do this where they catch the stuff that's under the overhang there. With baby duck lures, and the fish go crazy for them. I didn't know baby ducks were so much on the menu for giant eels and catfish, but yeah. So that's that one. There's a monster. It's not really a sea monster, but so river or lake or pond maybe. This could be an inlet. Anyway, let's see what we got next. So we got a lot of these. This one here, y'all tell me. I don't know. This very distant in the fog. The claim, obviously, is that we are looking at the elusive Kraken, a giant squid or octopus of henceforth unknown proportions. But Brainbug says this is really good CGI. The fog gives you a perfect mask to work your tiny pixel art and make some cool special effects. But there are a few different versions of this video of varying quality. This one is by far the best quality. There's one that I think is original. I didn't get it. I don't know why. I should have grabbed it just to show you a comparison. But it is the original is very clearly water spouts. Which are like tornadoes out to sea. And they're not all that uncommon. It's really cool to see 2 or 3 of them together, which is what the original video is. And people are like, oh, is this a Kraken? But it's clearly that. This one is not that, though. This one's the one that looks more Kraken-like because it's special effects. Anyway, moving forward. Yeah, because we got some great stuff to go through. All right, we got some underwater footage. I don't know if this one's narrated or not. We're going to give it a listen. Nope. Okay, so we're not going to listen to ship sounds deep under the water. It was recorded somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, allegedly. We got a nice little spectrogram down there in the corner so we can kind of see the sounds. Oop, there's some eyes. Eyes in the darkness. Swimming up. More eyes. And is that supposed to be like a dragon's head? That's kind of cool. Dragon or like a sea serpent head or something. Maybe like an alien jellyfish with wings. This one I think is CGI too. Just because the eyes first appear down low, right there. You see them popping up at the bottom, and they move. So pay attention to where the eyes are appearing at early on in this footage, and then when we pop ahead, that's going to be like on the ground, and it seems like it's further away, like almost like they'd be underground. Oh, hold on. Maybe I'm being, because they look down. Okay, so, I mean, they could change the direction they're looking between there and there. So let's see. Is there room for what is appearing? Because you can see the ground right there. So it's like coming up from underground. I don't know. So if this is not CGI, I have a hypothesis. I think I'm pretty confident it's the CGI. Mainly because you aren't going to find a lot of sea life with blinking eyelids like that. You live in a marine environment. It's really, I mean, not to say that there aren't sea animals with eyelids, but very human-like blinking situation going on here. I do like this one though. I was going to speculate that maybe we're looking at a ray or a skate that was resting on the sea floor there and was disturbed by the camera. I don't know for sure. And look at it one more time. You can see the seafloor in the blackness too, though, is the problem, and it looks like it's just appearing out of the seafloor. That's why I think it's CGI. That's my opinion. Let me check with my side chat here really quick and see if anybody else has got any theories on this. Nope, nothing so far. Okay, so moving on. Moving on. All right, here's a weird looking monstrosity for you. What do you guys think of this? If I had to name this species, I'd probably call it a baboon fish, just based on those massive canines. This is, beyond a doubt, a art sculpture. This is a kind of famous art sculpture. It did make its rounds on the Globster forums in the crypto community, but it is definitely a piece of art put together. Do we have the name of the artist here? Surely we do. Looking through the comment section just a moment. Enjoy our weird gorilla monster, gorilla fish, baboon fish, however you want to call it. Oh, okay. Juan Cabana, or Cabana, is the artist. So if you're interested in what this is and seeing more things like it, Juan Cabana. It's a sculpture. All right, let's see what we have next. Ew, something slimy. Anybody want to see something slimy? Eyeball. Decaying flesh. It's absolutely massive. Absolutely massive and still squishy. And ooh, here's where it gets good. This is where Brainbug gets to do the Brainbug thing and look at these vertebrae, because these vertebrae tell us so much about the pedigree of our monster. Let me let the video finish though, but let's pay close attention to these vertebrae. How many of them there are? All right. I know what this is, but I'm going to give everybody a chance to give a assessment here. We just talked about these. Hey, Raw Man, I know you watch all my stuff. Pay attention to this, because it's very important that you understand that how tapophony works with big sea organisms, especially sharks, because this is a shark. This is a basking shark ring. You win the prize for today. Yep. And in a state of decay. And pay attention to the shark vertebrae, because this is what I want everybody to make sure they mention when they run into Young Earth Creationist or anybody proposing that the Japanese trawled plesiosaur was not a basking shark. Direct them to look at the vertebrae. Sharks have very distinct narrow vertebrae that actually have this ribbing on them that makes them look like a filter, kind of a. And it's because they don't have they're cartilaginous. They don't have the same calcification in their bones, so they're reinforced with ridges. But that's neither here nor there. You can always tell when something's a shark if you get a good look at its vertebrae. They're narrower, so tetrapod vertebrae tend to be about 2/3 as wide as they are, or as thick as they are wide. Whereas sharks, it's about 1/5 the width compared to the length. So they're almost like discs, whereas our vertebrae are more like can shaped. Or cylinders. Yeah, but this is definitely a basking shark. Oh, CryptoCorner, the mascot for CryptoCorner should be a basking shark, right? How many times has it turned out to be a basking shark? Like every time? Every time? No, not every time, but a lot of times. Well, let's go on. Let's go on and see what they got next for us. What other sea monsters are lurking in the depths of TikTok? All right. Sea monster caught on camera. This is hashtagged as scary, weird, terrifying. Let's decide if we think it's terrifying or not. Ah, yes, this is a classic. Did you catch that, folks? What do we have here? Watch. We're going to have what appears to be a plesiosaur with a plesiosaur with a paddle tail for some reason. With a not just a paddle of a tail, but a horizontally patterned. So let me talk about. Oh, I gotta pop myself back up again real quick. Not to Creation Watch, but to CryptoCorner. So tetrapods, when they swim, okay, when tetrapods swim, their tail motions can go one of two ways, depending on if they're a synapsid or a diapsid. It's just the way that our body's locomotion has kind of evolved. But diapsids, like snakes, like crocodiles, like marine iguanas, any reptile that swims, and birds too. But we'll get into that in a second. Because birds are a little bit weirder with the way that they like to swim, because they use their arms for propulsion, don't really move their bodies, their spine in much of a direction at all. But for the majority of diapsids, it's a side to side motion. You've seen a snake swim, you've seen a crocodile swim, like a fish, side to side. Now, synapsids, like you and I, seals, dolphins, whales. When we get into the water, otters, that's how we force ourselves through the thicker medium, is through an up and down motion as opposed to the side and side motion of other tetrapods. So this has a very distinct impact on our development and what we turn into when we're evolving. So if you're pushing water this way, you have a vertical fins coming off of your body that develop. You have like fish are another animal that moves vertically, and their fins go up and down, and they are move through the water column that way. Crocodiles, their tails can be laterally, marine or saltwater crocodiles are more laterally compressed for doing that as well. It's just a trait of evolution. Marine reptiles were no different. And then marine mammals, when they develop their fins, are flat, horizontal, and they move through the water like that. So obviously brings us back to our alleged plesiosaur that has a mammalian tail fluke that is going this way. And no, that's not how plesiosaurs would have propelled themselves through the water. They didn't have the tail fluke, but if they did, it wouldn't be horizontal like that. This is CGI done over a whale jumping out of the water. That is my final thoughts on it. But it's pretty old. This one's from way back in the day. All right. A sea monster was caught on camera in a lake somewhere in Australia. It's Australian sea monster time. What are we looking at here, folks? Looks like an alligator at first, but it gets closer. We're going to talk about that in a second, too. Seems to have a tail of a whale, but the head of something alien-like. What do you think? I have a lot of thoughts. So, my first thought is, you're in Australia, why are you going to alligator? Maybe it's a language thing. But Australia has crocodiles, not alligators. this has nostrils at the end of its snout, which is good. So this, I don't see what they're talking about, it having the tail of a whale. I'm watching now again through to see if I can pick out what it was referring to. I am fairly confident I know what this is. I welcome disagreement, of course. Yeah, gators are not in Australia. Where's the tail of the whale? No, I see a tail of a crocodilian. I see what is very much a big croc carrying something in its mouth. Some tasty snack that it's managed to snag, probably off of those banks behind it. And it is swimming out to have a meal. So, yeah, I don't think this is a sea monster at all. I think it's a crocodile carrying its prey. I like how it snorts the water out of its nose right there. Yeah. Very majestic when they do that. And you can kind of see a trend towards aquatic characteristics in this organism too. This kind of fits with what I was saying before about the tail motion. This thing's moving side to side, not up and down. If it's moving up and down that close to the surface, you'd see parts of it rising up and down out of the water. Very good, distinct swimming patterns. All right, what else do we have here? Hey, student Dr. Ben, do you see this long Furby here that's swimming across the Australian lake? Yeah. They breed in those lakes, and then they lay their eggs in your dreams. All right. This one's taken from a plane. Let's have a look. It says, bro, what is that? So we're watching the water because this is sea monsters, right? And he sees a black shape under the water. And he's like, what? What is that? But we are pretty high up. And I am of the opinion that what we are looking at in this video, I'll let him finish. I keep wanting to get ahead of myself and spoil the surprise. Now, this is definitely a school of fish. I mean, come on. I think that, tell me if you disagree, of course. I'm willing to concede any points that if you bring me evidence there's something about this that says that, hey, this is something not natural and not what a school of fish should look like, I'm okay with that. Bring it on. But yeah, to me, this is a school of fish. Seen from on high. Well, not that high, because you can see the land masses down there and kind of how proportionate the rocks are. I mean, I don't know how big the land mass is, but you can kind of use that for a little bit of scale. All right, yep, is fish. 100% agree, D Parks. Hey, Germania. We haven't got to the gay dinosaurs yet. You haven't missed it. That's going to be at the end. Even Cthulhu fears the Murby. And by the way, for people who don't know, Murbies are when a long Furby evolves to fill an aquatic niche because scuba divers, submarine pilots, underwater welders, all of these people have nightmares too, and that's a perfect habitat for long Furbies to lay their eggs in. So it's no surprise that long Furbies have adapted to an aquatic lifestyle to fill that niche vacuum of the nightmare of all these underwater workers. So, yeah, that's what they have to do. All right, this next one. What do you guys think? Now, remember what I said about the shark vertebra earlier, because sharks have really narrow disc-like vertebra, and this definitely does not have disc-like vertebra. It has very serpentine-like vertebra, because this is very anatomically similar to a large snake, very large snake. Yeah, and that's because of the sculpture. This is the sculpture in the ocean. It's not an animal at all. It's a tourist attraction. I've looked at it on Google Map too. I wish I had the coordinates, because I'd tell you where to go locate it at. Maybe I'll get those and make that bonus content for my patrons. What do you guys think? What do my patrons out there think? You all want bonus content where you can go out and look at the map of this giant skeletal snake sculpture in the ocean? I think I will do that. But yeah, sculpture. We're getting into some more Globster territory here. And I know I have some people in the side chat here who will probably ID this sucker right away. But let's see, giant fish or sea monster? Remember what I said about the way that that vertebrates divide at the aquatic locomotion level, and how that affects the tail fluke, and this is a fluke on this one. Yes, this is a very small member of the Balena, the stethicids of the baleen whales. I don't know the exact species at this state of decay, but you can tell by its tail that it's a marine mammal, and you can tell by the articulation of its jaws that it is a filter feeder, and the lower jaw is in this image looks much bigger. I don't know if it's the angle. The lower jaws of baleen whales generally are bigger, because they got the big net that expands like a pelican's throat sac, kind of, except for it fills up with little fishies and plankton and krill, and it pushes all the water out. But that's why the bottom jaw looks so saggy and weird, and then the top jaw is what generally people see poking out of the water and stuff when they talk about seeing baleen whales. The bottom jaw is, it's like something like a minke whale. I'm not gonna ID it specifically, Ring, just because of the state of decay. But yeah, something like a minke whale or one of the other smaller species of baleen whale. Not a toothed whale, and which is kind of strange, because most of the time globsters are like beaked whales, like Baird's beak whale and stuff like that. But yeah. Anyhow, that's my opinion. And I was waiting for Ring to pipe in, because I know that Ring likes animal science as much as I do. All right, this one's asking if it's Nessie, but it seems to be washing ashore on the ocean, so I doubt very much that it's Nessie. This is more of a traditional Globster. Globster tail 87. All right. Yep, we're in the Philippines. A big old chunk of slimy, globby organic material washes up on the shore. People get all excited, don't know what to make of it, and then it eventually disappears back out to sea. This one, I didn't realize there's all these news pieces cut into it, but this one appears to be, I'm gonna say it's like a whale fat. That's what it usually is like a big old hunks of gooey, slimy blubber from a whale. the people will assume or make the inference that it's like an octopus, and you can see why. I mean, the texture and everything kind of gives it that impression, but it always turns out to be fat from a whale. And I'm going to say that this one's probably the same thing, because that is the very nature of the Globster. All right. Lake Michigan, here we come. I think I just discovered a sea monster. The fish has got a spiked tongue. Yeah. Because it is a predator. And it eats other fish. Very fishy teeth. Yeah, this is a... I mean, as far as like, this is the monster of Lake Michigan. This is the apex predator of Lake Michigan. And it's a common species. Usually people will fish for these more in like more rural nature park type lakes, but they're in Lake Michigan too. They're in all the Great Lakes. This is the northern pike, or the white pike. And they are massive fish, very almost like barracuda-like. They do have a history. They've never like killed anybody. They do have a history of biting people on occasion, though. So in a northern lake, actually there's a lake not too far from here, about 40 miles from here. That's the southernmost lake that has a stock of northern pike in it. I don't know how they're doing now. It's been a long time since I've been there. It was like, last time I was there, I think it was 2005 or something like that. So it's been a long time. I don't know if they even still have any pike in there with climate change stuff going on. And that lake probably is not quite cool enough to keep a healthy population going, but I don't know for sure. Anyway, but this one's definitely a pike. That's my opinion. Again, disagree, agree. That's what it is. So we got one more. Okay, we got one more. And this one is pretty cool. So without further ado, our final hashtag sea monster for today on Cryptic Corner. Gotta learn to say that, Cryptic Corner. We got 3 C's all there together, and it sticks in my throat a little bit, but that's okay. 2004 Cape Town. An underwater drone was investigating a shipwreck until it caught something strange. Cape Town. Whoosh. That is an animal. That is definitely an animal. That is a shark. That is. Great white sharks are. I got this music playing. It's kind of annoying. Sorry about that. Great white sharks are amazing predators of warm-blooded animals, and electrical impulses are what they use to pin down their prey. To not necessarily pin down. I don't mean hold down. I mean pin down the location of their prey. Excellent sense of smell. Sight is just like a secondary sense for most sharks. Not something they're dependent on a lot. There are exceptions, of course, but by and large, sharks are using electromagnetic impulses and their sense of smell to track down what they want to eat. And it is honing in on this drone, trying to see if it's something yummy. All right. So that was CryptoCorner for today, April 16th, 2022. And we talked about the hashtag sea monsters on TikTok. We learned... Oh, the music was too loud. Sorry. I didn't realize it was coming across so loud on your all's end. I hope it wasn't drowning me out too much. I can try to balance that out a little bit. But that was CryptoCorner. If you're watching this on Friday, thank you so much for coming in. Please remember to be kind and take care, and we will see you next weekend. Taking a coffee. All right. So, it is Creation Watch time. It is time to tackle some creationist claims, and I'm not saying that when it comes to Catholics and science, Catholics have a long history with science. A long history of contribution to modern science. Things like entire fields like astrology, for instance, physics, heavy-handed, because the who had the time back during the Middle Ages, and even into the all the way up through the Enlightenment, even who had time to investigate things in the natural world. Astrology, biology, geology. It wasn't just your average people. It was members of the church. It was members of the Catholic Church, the most powerful organization in the world at the time, and for a long time. So they did have a heavy hand in science. They did have a heavy hand in our understanding and development of modern science, modern medicine, even things about our culture that are scientific, like the need for hospitals, the need for health care. Those kind of things do have a lot of origins in the Catholic Church. I know it's, for the most part, we have a negative image of the Catholic Church here in the Hive, but they have contributed to science, and I'm not about to start denying them that truth. However, there are some modern science topics that the Catholic Church, I don't know where they stand on it, but their apologist, Mr. Brian Holdsworth. We've talked about him, or we haven't talked about him before. Actually, when I was doing videos, I did a video on him, and that's and then in that video he was talking about Darwin, but today he's actually talking about climate change. The name of this video is Climate Activism and Catholics. This makes some wild claims here, and I'm ready to dive into it. Who else is ready to see what Mr. Brian Holdsworth has to say about climate change?
Is one that celebrates both faith and reason as valid forms of knowledge, which means that when those things are working together, the human person is optimized to be what they are as a rational soul. So the last thing that a Catholic should ever be willing to do is to abandon either their faith or their reason, one for the other, or just altogether. And forgive me for saying this, but there does seem to be a lot about the environmentalist and the climate activist movements that do require us to embrace a lot of suspiciously, seemingly incoherent ideas, or at least solutions that you couldn't say that they benefit from the full spectrum of what human thought can offer.
And I think we will agree there, but I think we will disagree on which side of the topic that there is this incoherent or solutions with poor application and applicability.
Both scientific as well as metaphysical and ethical.
I don't know if metaphysics comes into the climate change topic, but we'll see how he tries to shoehorn it in. It's Brian Holdsworth, everybody. Climate activism and
One example that always
Catholics.
hits me sideways is this idea that we have to save the planet. This is the kind of language that is inherent within a lot of environmentalist campaigns, as well as green legislative policies and agendas. They say, we got to save the planet. Now, the problem with this line of thinking is that the planet doesn't need to be saved.
That's because you misunderstand the message. The message isn't save the planet like the planet's going to die if we don't do something. The planet's going to be fine, and there's going to continue to support life. It's to save the world that is capable of sustaining humans and other organisms in their nice little ecological balance, which is healthy for us and which we require to survive on this planet.
A slightly warmer global temperature is hardly the destruction of the planet or of the world. Apart from us,
it really is, though. Not the destruction of the world as in it won't support life. It won't support a human. It's that it won't support our current state of life. That's the problem. We want to sustain the world that we live in, the one that we need to survive as humans. Not just, a world, as long as there's a world where life can be sustained, we're good to go. That's not how this works.
It really doesn't mean anything to save the planet for its own sake. The planet has existed in all manner of conditions that we would consider.
Not saving it for its own sake, saving it for the sake of the organisms that live on it.
Are far worse than what might happen due to climate change. Apart from us and our needs, there's really nothing you could say about the planet or certain environments that makes value judgments about them. For example, the Arctic tundra, which isn't too far from where I live, features temperatures below minus 60 degrees and hardly any signs of life. And that is a perfectly valid environment. There's nothing intrinsically good or bad about it.
It's not good or bad. It's good for things that need a tundra-like environment to propagate and to thrive, like a muskox and a snowshoe hare, caribou, things that live in these environments. They require that. So to them, the Arctic tundra is very good because it's what they need to be able to feed and reproduce and thrive.
The slope of an active volcano with magma and lava and pyroclastic flows, if that's even the right language, I don't know what you call it, that is a perfectly valid environment. The surface of the moon or another...
That is a valid environment, the volcanic slopes. There are crickets that live in the lava tubes, specifically, that's their habitat. It is a valid environment for an organism to live in, and to them that's very good. They need that to survive. It is good for the cricket to have these active volcanic tubes.
A planet like Mars or Jupiter, those again are perfectly valid environments.
You don't know what environment means if you think a planet or a moon or a uninhabited or dead planet, I guess you would say, with no life forms living on it, is an environment. An environment requires an organism to be present and experiencing it. It's the environment that the organism is. It's descriptive of anyway. An environment it's not an environment if nothing lives there.
The only way that we can say that one environment is preferable or better than the other is if you are judging it based on how hospitable it is to life, and especially human life. So any attempt to say that a certain vision or constitution of the planet is better than any other is to say that it is more conducive to providing for human life than another. So
more conducive to extant life, just the life that lives there right now. If we're making life it harder for things to live that live there naturally, under the natural order of things, without human interference, then that is a problem.
Any attempt to discuss saving the planet without accounting for human need as like the primary consideration, the center of gravity to this discussion, is completely nonsensical.
Why? Do you think that just because you think that humans are special and stand out among the other organisms on this planet, the main thing that I think that humans stand out about on this planet is that we're destructive and we're making it harder for the other organisms to live? So no, I'm not just going to focus on human need. I think that we need to bring the population down. I think we need to move to greener energies, but Brian's going to have a lot of problems with that. We're only 3 minutes in.
It's smuggling in all kinds of variables and desires without admitting that they are intrinsic to that conversation. In other words, it takes too much for granted. Therefore, any attempt at preserving or protecting the environment must be informed by the fundamental question of what will best promote human flourishing. And sometimes
That's because you have an anthropocentric framework that you're viewing the world for. Not everybody thinks that humans are the super special, end-all, be-all, the only thing that we should care about. Not everybody is on the same page as you. Not everybody thinks that humans are the only thing that matters.
that might mean cutting down a forest. Sometimes that might mean mining coal. It might even mean a warmer climate, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. So when anyone starts to talk about saving the planet or protecting the environment for its own sake, especially at the expense of human well-being, I'd say it's safe to say that they've taken a seriously wrong turn in their thinking. Another serious logical problem that I see unaddressed in the conversations in environmentalist movements is the fact that they are promoting a vision of the Earth that doesn't currently exist.
No, they're promoting a vision of the Earth as it existed pre-industrialization. So let's not stop with the nonsense when we're talking about climate change anyway.
It could someday, but for now it is only a potential outcome and not an actually existing scenario. And for some people, based on their current systems of belief and the necessity for coherence within those belief systems, that's a valid thing to do. But for certain people, specifically and especially naturalist, materialist, atheists, that is something that you cannot promote without betraying your naturalism and your atheism in the process.
Oh boy. He's going to tell us how atheists can't care about the environment intrinsically by Catholic philosophy, which starts with the precondition that humans are special.
And that's curious because a lot of naturalist atheists do seem to be doing just that thing. On August 3rd, 2019, for example, Richard Dawkins posted to his Facebook page that climate change is the biggest crisis we have ever faced together. And in 2019, the American Humanist Association launched the Humanist Environmental Response Effort for Climate Initiative, in which they said climate change is the greatest threat facing our world. And
yeah, lots of people are saying climate change is the greatest threat that faces our world, including some people that you're going to have problems with here later on in the video. I have watched this through, by the way, and I know his citations and stuff, because I think it's wild that he's wanting to present this as something that humanists and atheists and free thinkers as this are the ones that are promoting. No, anybody in the science field, this is not a, nobody else thinks that climate change is, it's a very fringe idea that climate change is not a thing that's happening, and that there's not steps that we can take to try to mitigate it. It's very fringe to think that that's not the case. And the people who actually work in the field are not going to agree with you. He's going to cite people here who disagree with him in a few minutes.
humanists are compelled to act. So what's wrong with that, right? Well, let me explain. A naturalist atheist is someone who doesn't believe that there is anything more than the natural physical facts that are accessible to our senses.
Agreed. I'm with you so far, Brian.
There is nothing that transcends the natural world like a supernature, let alone a god. Only what can be observed with our physical senses and then interpreted with our intellect is admitted to our understanding of reality. Okay.
I'm with you. I'm with you there. Absolutely.
So if I were to sit down with somebody with those basic assumptions about what is real and what informs their sense of reality, I would ask them, if you could make the world a better place, what would it be like? Like, tell me a few of the attributes of a truly good world. What would that look like? And they might say something like, well, there would be no more war, no hunger, everyone would share their resources, and there'd be
imagine all the people.
No more pollution or the burning of fossil fuels. Now, don't misunderstand me here. I'm not saying that this is what every atheist wants or what they would say in reply. I'm just saying that those might be some of the things that a person would identify as an ideal world scenario. The only point I'm making here is that I bet most naturalist atheists can and would be willing to describe a better world that they would want to live in and that we should work towards realizing. Okay, so my follow-up question to that vision is, it's kind of a stupid question, but it's unfortunately necessary. I would ask them, does that world exist? To which the reply would be, of course, no, It doesn't. Which is to say that the world they envision, which is good and right, is not a world that exists. Our senses have never observed it,
I'm with you.
and science has never observed a world like that. Therefore, knowledge of such a world does not come through science, and it does not come through
Okay, here's where you're wrong. Well, I'll let him finish his thought, but then I'll break him
what
apart.
we observe as natural physical facts which currently exist. Therefore, my last inquiry in that line of questioning would be, how do you have knowledge of this potential world, and how do you know that it's good? Where does the vision and the inspiration for this good world that ought to be come from if it's not observed in material physical facts? It must by logical necessity come from someone or something.
All right, we've made the leap now. Did you all catch that, where we kind of change things up? So I'm going to lay down an analogy here for Brian. He made this analogy about asking the atheist naturalist a series of questions. Now I'm going to talk to him about something here. I'll give him an example to answer this and why he doesn't understand the science at all. Songbirds. Okay? I like songbirds. I think that listening to birds sing is objectively good. I'm an atheist. Not objectively good. I think it's subjectively good to me. Let's say I think that there's something that hearing them sing stimulates in my brain that releases pleasant. I don't know if it's if it's because I have associated with pleasant memories. It doesn't matter. My brain releases the chemicals, the serotonin, the dopamine when I hear birds sing. It makes me happy. So whether or not that's objective doesn't matter. It's happening. When I hear the birds singing, it's objective. So cats, felines. I love cats. Cats are adorable. When a cat purrs on my lap, it releases serotonin too. But the cats, when they're outside, they kill the songbirds. No more songbirds, no more happy. No more happy in my brain. That's already impacted the environment. There's already birds that have been driven to extinction by invasive cats. So we don't have those songs anymore. The world is less of a good place, subjectively to me and anybody else who likes the song of the songbirds, to enjoy them. It's not as good as it was or it could be if we hadn't introduced cats to the environment. Now we can look at statistics of these animals, of these birds, and how they propagate and where they live, what their populations are like, what their populations would be like without predation by certain individual species, so we can produce data of a better world. We can look, and I do this because this is a research project I found myself stumbling into when I was working on a response to this, but we can build a world on math, on facts, to that is more ideal than the one that we live in. And we can say, if we bring these levels down, if we, again with the cat analogy, if we reduce the cat population, the bird population will increase, and it will be better for the natural environment as it exists. It'll be better for us as humans, because if we enjoy songbirds, maybe you don't enjoy songbirds. It's subjective. But I think all value judgments are subjective. I present to me that I'm wrong, because I'm a cultural relativist. So maybe that's a different position that you're taking, that you're starting from, Brian. But I don't see any further reason to go down this route of argument to say that, we can't envision a better world without God, because we can't envision a better world with math and science and understanding how different chemicals react to each other, how different organisms react to each other. We can make conclusions based on data. That's what we do, and that's what we're doing with this climate science. So get with it, buddy.
Thing that transcends the facts that we observe in the natural world. It must come from outside the natural world, since it doesn't come from inside, which makes it a question of
why must it come from outside the world. Value judgments are subjective. We are all okay. So when it comes to morality, which is what he's going to come down to in this argument, people say you can either have objective or subjective reality. Objective reality is, of course, calling it objective reality is kind of a cop-out, because if it's God's morality, then it's subjective to God in his creation. But for the sake of argument, let's say this objective reality comes from God. They want to say subjective reality means that every individual makes their own determination on their personal morality. That's not even close to true. We have innate things about us as a member of our species. As a mammal, you have innate things about you that inform your moral position. As a primate, you have innate things about you that inform your moral position. As a Homo sapien, you have innate things about you specific to Homo sapien that inform your moral position. As a member of a specific culture, you have innate things about you and growing up in that culture that inform your morality. The family or tribe that you grew up in have innate things about them that inform your morality. Your personal relationships and the way you've interacted with people in the past have innate things about that inform your morality. Your individual thoughts and personal experiences that are yours and yours alone have innate things about them that inform your morality. Your morality is built on a structure, a pyramid of experience and biology and history that cannot be denied. It does not need to come from a third party. It just needs to be built on a strong foundation of what you are and what values matter to you. And those are going to be subjective to you on each one of those levels. But you will see lots of crossover and variation that creates a three-dimensional gradient of where people stand on the moral compass of what is right and wrong on a multitude and myriad of social, economic, and moral issues.
Metaphysics, the supernatural, and the transcendent. And that makes it a question for the philosopher or the theologian, but it is not something that the atheist can speculate about unless he or she abandons their atheism in the process. So really,
so you have to abandon your atheism when you when you play Dungeon Master Ring, because if you cannot envision a world of fantasy without God. So you have to abandon everything that comes from the imagination. You don't get credit for that. None of you imagine anything or get credit for that. God puts that in your head. That is how that works, according to Brian Holdsworth.
If atheists want to contribute to a conversation about climate change, all they can really say is things like climate change is happening and look, here's some data about it. Mm-hmm. What they can't say is this is bad and we have to do something about it. We have to.
Yes, we can, because we can present data about that too. We can say that this is bad if we want to sustain the world that supports life, so that supports human life or animal life, plant life, whatever. If you want to make that, we can make that case that if our goal is to make a better world for our future generations to be able to thrive in, it's objective. Then we can say this is objectively bad. I say objectively, but I mean for us as a species, for sustaining a world that humans can live on and other organisms too for future generations. We can say that.
We have to prevent this tragedy from unfolding, because any attempt to do that is to try to introduce knowledge of something that transcends the mere natural observed facts.
But we're still appealing to something that is fact, though. We can look at the numbers and the data and know that it's a fact that the carbon emissions are skyrocketing, that it's having a negative impact on the climate of the planet. We can look at facts about that. We're not having to draw from some fanciful idea. We're looking at numbers, buddy.
They're smuggling in a vision of what ought to become that isn't observed through the natural facts and isn't observed through science, which by their own...
It's not what ought to become. It's what is best for sustainability. It's not. This isn't an ought claim that the world ought to be able to sustain life. We're not making what ought to be. We're saying if we as a species want to continue to thrive on this planet and create a planet that our descendants can thrive on, we need to take these measures.
Own insistence is all that there is. But you know who can talk about what ought to be done is theists, metaphysicians, and true philosophers, because by our own creeds, we admit that there is something more that transcends the physical facts. So we can talk about potential worlds and which ones are preferable.
So can we. With data, we can say, if we change these numbers, this is the world that we will create. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not a moral world.
So if I can talk about Catholic theists for a second, which is my own tribe, what is it that we can offer and contribute to that conversation? Well, again, any solution that we offer must place human need and human life at the center of all other considerations. There can't be any discussion about protecting the planet or protecting the environment apart from human need, because that's just nonsense, as we observed earlier. And that's a problem for us, because a lot of the proposals we get from environmentalists and green policymakers don't seem to respect or appreciate what is best for the largest number of people, especially the poor. So why do I say that? Because the first immediate solution
they do, actually, because in climate change is already impacting these poor third world countries that you don't seem to realize, that they're affecting the farm life, the pastoral life of these less developed, poor pastoral and agricultural countries. We are already seeing this. Our inaction to reduce our carbon footprint is negatively impacting the poor already.
Keep hearing from policymakers and environmentalists is that we have to stop using fossil fuels and we have to go carbon neutral. We have to turn off the taps on affordable energy in favor of renewable energy. Well, here's the problem with that. Renewable energy isn't nearly as affordable or reliable as fossil fuels are. Maybe it will be someday, and maybe when that day comes, that would be great, and we could make a trend.
We're there. I mean, we're getting to a point where our green energies and hybrid models are becoming sustainable and becoming usable. So shut up, Brian. You don't know what you're talking about here, friend. I didn't mean to be so mean to say, tell him to shut up, but he really, this is really a topic that he does not have any knowledge on whatsoever, and it doesn't seem like he's done any research, unless he just did research with a very biased lens, because you can go to different countries' environmental or agricultural government pages and see the measures and the subsidies. In the U.S., we are subsidizing farmers for yield loss due to climate change. We are already doing this.
Transition over to renewable energy, as long as it doesn't hurt or disrupt vulnerable economic systems and the vulnerable people who rely upon them. But until then, turning off
climate change is affecting the vulnerable economic systems. Again, we are subsidizing and reporting losses on crops because of climate change. What are you talking about? Not switching over is causing the harm to the poor folks that you're talking about. It's causing economic stress. Not moving over is the problem.
Off the taps to affordable energy means forcing untold millions, maybe even billions of people into desperate poverty because they can't afford the necessities of life, like food, shelter, and warmth.
They cannot do food and shelter because of climate change, because they can't produce crops anymore, because they can't raise their cattle anymore, because desertification due to climate change, because of droughts and blights. There are things that are happening in the world right now, disasters that you seem ignorant about. And how did you even research climate change and not pick up on the fact that there are less developed less developed countries in the world where people are struggling due to the impacts of climate change? But you don't even have to go out of the country, because the U.S. government is subsidizing farmers because of loss due to climate change. Again, I don't know. I keep hammering this point, but he's ignoring so much data.
Warmth, or perhaps air conditioning for their homes. We heat and we cool our homes. We farm our food. We transport that food, and we make use of necessary travel for things like work because of the availability of affordable energy. But going carbon neutral means ending affordable energy.
Do you think that gas prices right now are affordable? Do you think it's more affordable to buy, and my UK people, I'm going to talk American measurements here, sorry, buy, do you think $4 a gallon for fossil fuel? And this is artificial inflation too. It's not just that fossil fuels are unaffordable. It's that the industry that produces them falsely increases the price of them. You know, they take oil from Texas, drive it to Oklahoma, and then sell it back to Texas so that they can drive up the cost on it and charge the people more because of the transportation of the oil to the refinery and then back out to the public. It's artificial inflation to make more money to to fleece the poor. The fossil fuel industry fleeces the poor and is bad for the people who aren't profiting directly from fossil fuels.
Here's what Nobel Prize winning Yale economist William Nordhaus said. He said, for any policy to be effective in solving global warming, it must raise the market price of carbon, which will raise the market prices of fossil fuels and the products of fossil fuels. Obviously, things like gas and natural gas and oil and all of these kinds of things will go up in price, but the things that we don't appreciate will go up in price are almost all of the products that get manufactured in warehouses that can...
William Nordhaus is not your ally. I'm going to read just a quick quote from William Nordhaus. Where were we? In Reflections of Economics of Climate Change in 1993. So this is, 30 years ago. Mankind is playing dice with the natural environment through a multitude of interventions, injecting into the atmosphere trace gases like the greenhouse gases or ozone-depleting chemicals, engineering massive land use change, such as deforestation, depleting multitudes of species in their natural habitats, even while creating transgenic ones in the laboratory, and accumulating sufficient nuclear weapons to destroy human civilization. Under the climate change model, he has developed in general those sectors of the economy that depends heavily on unmanaged ecosystems. That is a very heavy dependent on natural occurring rainfall, runoff, and temperatures, all things that are suffering now more than ever. Will be the most sensitive to climate change. Agriculture, forestry, outdoor recreation, and coastal activities fall into this category. Nordhaus takes seriously the potential catastrophic impacts of climate change. Nordhaus in 2007. The review's unambiguous conclusions about the need for extreme immediate action will not survive the substitution of discounting assumptions that are consistent with today's marketplace. So the central question about global warming policy, and this is, again, he's not a climate scientist, so I'm going to forgive the use of the term global warming there. He's an economist. How much, how fast, and how costly remains open. The review informs, but it does not answer the fundamental questions. So Nordhaus is not your ally in this topic, Brian. He strongly disagrees with you.
Consume a lot of factories that consume a lot of energy. A lot of the plastics and a lot of the products that we rely upon are made from fossil fuels. And what Nordhaus says will happen is exactly what we have seen in countries that have aggressively pursued this kind of agenda. Germany, for example, has been trying to subsidize renewable energy by taxing affordable energy, which has led to utility cost increases of up to 50% for the working class just over the past decade. And the worst part of...
When, I can't remember what year it was. It was a warm year, though. Was it Germany who ended up, the government sent money back to people because their private renewable energy sources were giving them a negative cost on their energy usage, basically putting power back into the grid instead of drawing from it. Yeah. Okay.
Part of that is that none of these subsidies have reduced the emissions in that time either. So the working class gets constricted by an extremely less affordable cost of living.
What about subsidizing the farmers for losing crop yield due to climate change? And I got statistics and citations on all that for you too. Place it from such sources as the FDA, the USDA, the EPA, all these different environmental organizations. And of course, one of my good friends is a climate scientist, Pale Blue Mama. I was hoping she would be in the side chat today, but she's been dealing with some moving stuff and getting her teenage son and herself moved into a new house. So I'm not going to fault her at all about missing out on this, but I thought she would enjoy, or maybe she'd probably pull her hair out anyway in the side chat if I'm completely honest with the crap that Brian's saying, but hopefully she'd be agreeing with everything I'm saying here. We're losing more money due to climate change now in 2022 than we would have been losing, or than we would be have lost had we signed into the Green New Deal.
And nothing improves as far as emissions go. And it seems to me that most green policy solutions are a lot like that. Super high cost to everyone who isn't already filthy rich with no environmental benefit.
Actually, you got that backwards. The fossil fuel industry is only beneficial for people who's super filthy rich. For the rest of us, it's a net loss. Again, I defer you to the gas prices right now, artificially inflated gas prices.
The other thing that affordable fossil fuels have enabled, and this is arguably the most important consideration, so don't skip past this in your mind, is that we can use heavy equipment to perform the necessary labor to produce and then to distribute our food. Because the last time we were carbon neutral as a species was prior to the Industrial Revolution. And this was a time when the vast, overwhelming majority of people lived and worked on farms, because that's how much manpower it took to ensure that we could all feed ourselves. And those farming communities had to be localized because we couldn't transport huge amounts of grain and produce to remote areas like we can now because of fossil fuels. So just imagine for a second what would happen to our farming and agricultural sector if we made affordable fossil fuels a thing of the past. All of that heavy...
Affordable fossil fuels are a thing of the past right now, Brian, because the cost of running machinery that runs on fossil fuels is tipping the balance. Right now, the balance is in flux. It's tipping. Right now, renewable, because of, I want to say, we blame it on Putin, right? Because the gas prices... because of the war was when things really started to skyrocket. But now we're at this flux where is renewable less economic than fossil fuels? I think we're hitting that flux right now, Brian.
The equipment, which has replaced the necessary human power that we need to produce our food, would be decommissioned. Not to mention all the trucks and the trains that we...
Okay, just I grew up in the grain belt. My wife's whole family are farmers, and they have... this guy's going to talk about that too. Actually, let me let him finish his thing.
Transport our food and distribute to all the populace. But they could just replace their equipment with something that runs on electricity, right? Well, without getting into the conversation about where electricity comes from, we'll just say, yeah, okay, so farmers, you need to all buy Tesla harvesters and combines and tractors and things like that.
They already do. That's what I was getting ready to say. Farmers are on the cutting edge of renewable energy. They work very close in hand with the local agricultural and conservation departments to make sure that their farms are the farmland itself is renewable. Fossil fuel usage on the land itself is bad for the land. Please understand that, Brian, that running these fossil fuel driven machinery across their cropland is bad for the cropland. There's pollution that these things bark out. They are running on it's just there's so much negative impact to that. It's hard to even begin to articulate it, but most farmers are already ahead of that. This isn't the 1950s anymore where black smoke tractors are out there chugging along in the field. These farmers have hybrid combines, hybrid tractors that they are using now. They are setting up wind blocks. They are utilizing strips of land between fields for solar panels to help with their processing. Farmers are driving this. They are not suffering from the move to green energy. Farmers are the ones pushing it. They're the one driving. They're one of the driving forces behind it. They're also one of the ones. Farmers are the people who are suffering the most from the damages of climate change.
Well, the problem with this is that, as any farmer will tell you, they will have spent a long period of time, sometimes generations, building up their fleet of equipment. We're talking about millions of dollars of equipment here. To expect a farmer to either replace his or her fleet because they aren't allowed to burn fossil fuels anymore is basically to tell them to stop farming. And the first to suffer in a scenario like that, again, is the poor. When resources become scarce, the vulnerable are the first.
Again, the farmers are working hand in hand on these issues, and the replacement is subsidized on their government contracts because it has been shown economically to produce better yields for it's a profit across the board. Better yields, faster production, using more, and it's not just that they run, the hybrid models are just better. Hybrid combines are just better. All the bells and whistles on them are better. They're more up to date, more high tech, have more broader functions. Yeah, I don't think you did any research on this topic before you decided to dive into it.
First to go without, and that is an intolerable proposition from a Catholic perspective. But what good is affordable energy if we're all going to die from a collapsing climate, many will argue.
Right.
Well, the first thing I would say to this is that there really isn't strong evidence that that is happening or that that's going to.
False. There is only evidence that is happening. There's no evidence to the contrary. The only evidence that you have to the contrary are from the fossil fuel industry directly, and from the people they hire to say that that the data is wrong. This is where he gets ridiculous. This is where he starts making erroneous claims.
To happen. Yes, climate change is real and anthropogenic, but it isn't nearly as bad as politicians and mainstream media who rely on alarming headlines to sell advertising would lead us to believe.
And I don't disagree with you there that getting your information about climate change from politicians and from the media is a bad idea. You should get your information about climate change from the people who study climate change, from climate scientists, from agricultural economists. That's who you should be getting your information from, because they are the ones that are reviewing this data, because they are the ones that are most impacted by it. If your concern is for poor people, you need to look at the economical data reflecting what the damage from climate change and how many millions, billions of dollars we spend mitigating the effects of climate change right now in 2022. This isn't a future prediction. We are already seeing the predictions that were made back by folks like your citation there, Mr. Norhouse. He made predictions. We're seeing those predictions coming true now. This isn't speculative.
All we know is that the climate is getting slightly warmer, but we can't say with any measure of certainty what the cost of that will be, especially as compared to the potential benefit.
Yes, we can, but just because you're incredulous about it and you don't know how to map that data doesn't mean that the people don't. We have myriads of ways in which we can make predictions about future climate and about how climate has been in the past and what the expectations are in our current cycles and where we fall and why we're off of that and what is causing those changes. This is not something we cannot know. I don't know why you're saying that.
Benefits, which don't really seem to get much airtime in these conversations. Like, what about the agricultural benefits of something like a longer growing season to help feed a growing population?
Oh, yeah. So, this is an argument that if carbon dioxide is good for plants, then the carbon emission is a benefit because we can have more farmland. That's like saying if we increase the oxygen level, that it'd be better for humans because humans like oxygen, right? No, if you increase the oxygen level, it hasn't. There is a point at which we are poisoning the environment, which is what we're doing right now, poisoning the environment with carbon, and it's not going to be better for crops. I don't know where he's coming from with this. We're losing cropland, not gaining it. We are, because it's not just, the cold areas get warmer. No. The open field areas, the agricultural areas, the bread baskets get drier, turn into deserts.
What about plant life, which tends to thrive on an abundance of CO2, which may flourish in areas where it hasn't previously? And it's a common misunderstanding that the UN has given.
I want Brian to just start consuming pure oxygen when he breathes from here on out. Give him an oxygen mask, because oxygen is better for people, and they will thrive better with more oxygen.
And it's just a matter of years to solve this problem before we all die. The truth is that they haven't really said anything like that. And while I'd like to spend more time on explaining what they have said, I would rather direct you to Dr. Bjorn Lomborg, who has gone through all of that data, and he summarizes and assesses the costs and the benefits of pursuing green agendas. And that's an important consideration, and one that we should be attentive to, because you may have noticed that the people who are always pushing these green policies and agendas, they never do give us cost-benefit analysis. They just say crazy things like, we're all going to die if we don't do this.
Yes, they do give you cost, but you aren't looking at that. What you are looking at is what the headlines from what AOC said or what freaking Al Gore said 30 years ago. That's what you're looking at. No, we release the The FDA releases... Oh, goodness. Hold on. Let me just... The FDA releases reports on this stuff. The EPA releases reports on this stuff. The USDA releases reports on this stuff. Just because you don't look at it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I hope you guys are seeing this. Yeah. USDA, right here. You department... Whole websites dedicated to climate solutions. Climate solutions right there. USDA, EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, showing the issues, what we're seeing, these droughts that I was talking about, where we're seeing the agricultural areas getting hit by drought seasons that are reducing crop yields by up to 15%. The impact on livestock, this is all documented. We can see this impact on fisheries. Look at these schematics. This isn't speculation, Brian. This is stuff that there's actually releases of. We know how this is happening. Please stop with the disinformation campaign, buddy.
Which is the kind of hysteria that is absolutely not conducive to sober and thoughtful discourse and action. Lastly, if I can introduce the faith dimension into this conversation for a second, for those of us that come from a Judeo-Christian tradition, if we're attentive to it, we will notice that in the story of the fall of humanity in the book of Genesis,
if you come from a Judeo-Christian or Judeo position, be a good steward. Your book tells you to. Be a good steward and help us take care of the planet. Together we can do this, Brian.
When our ancestors sinned against God for the first time prior to that, they were living in a condition that was in a complete and natural harmony between the human creature and creation. In the garden, there was no disharmony. The ground and the plant life provided everything that they needed. But when Adam and Eve disobeyed God and ruptured their relationship and their harmony with God and therefore creation and everything that he created, there's an interesting sequence in the consequences that Scripture records. The first thing that God does is he curses the serpent who tricked them because, yeah, what a jerk, right? But he doesn't curse Adam and Eve. Instead, he curses the ground beneath them so that it will no longer provide for them as it once did, forcing Adam, and specifically Adam, to toil painfully to acquire the food that they need. Which means that because of the rupture with the Creator, creation would no longer persist in a state of harmony with itself and with us. Now, whether you consider that to be a matter of history or a myth, the essential takeaway that Scripture records and recognizes is that there was a harmony between us and the environment, and that harmony should exist. And it traces the effect of what we now find in our...
So, is your argument that we shouldn't worry about climate change because in the mythology of your religion, there's a magical curse on the land that's causing climate change? So, since it's a magical curse, that there's nothing we can do about it. I don't believe in magic, Brian. I don't believe in curses. I believe in data that we can see that we are killing our not when I say killing our planet, I do mean that completely hyperbolically, because things will survive. My cockroaches will survive. A lot of my bugs will survive. Humans, on the other hand, yeah.
Our tension with the environment that we live in, to our disharmony with God through sin. A massive takeaway from this that we should be attentive to is that for people of faith, that harmony that existed in the garden, that will never be recovered until God restores all creation to himself, including us. We will always be forced to labor against systems of the world to survive because the world is cursed to persist in a fashion that treats us as somehow incompatible with it. So if environmental care and being a good steward of creation is an important thing to you, it would follow that the very first step is to seek first the kingdom, seek harmony with God. In other words, become holy, be sanctified, be transformed by God's grace. And as you do so, you may find yourself operating in ways by virtue in uniformity with the natural world. That is the condition and the state that will naturally produce solutions to our problems. And those are the kinds of people that we should be listening to.
Oh, goodness. You got me so worked up. He just doesn't know what he's talking about. And he's just making hollow claims about our climate and about what data is being presented. I couldn't believe he would sit there and say that they don't present models and economic models that demonstrate. Hold on, I gotta fix my hair. It's getting all bobbling around, getting excited, and now I'm starting to hate the term Judeo-Christian. I agree. Let me catch up with the chat here before we move into the main event, which I believe people are probably anxious for, and that is the woke dinosaurs. Yes, I do pronounce data correctly. What is it? Data. There are. I do say data entry. I don't. Well, maybe I don't. I say data entry. That's right. I don't know if there's any position where I say. Anyway. Oh, let's see here. Yeah, I am breathing, John. Yes, and Scott Duke just getting in front of the camera and making stuff up. That's how apologists work. Oh, Lori's here. Hey, Lori. Woolly Ignorant. Bzz. Good to see ya. Hope that you all enjoyed that little delve into creation watch with Brian Holdsworth. I got my blood pressure up. Sinned against God. I don't believe in magical curses that create climate change. That's just not something I believe in. Brian, you're welcome to believe in it. I don't. And I think that whether you think that climate change is a magical curse or the results of a demonstrable anthropocentric impacts, it doesn't really matter. We could still be a good steward and help us fix the environment, help us be beneficial to our future generations. I don't want them to resent us. I want my descendants, or the descendants that, if I don't have any descendants, that's fine, but the descendants of our species that get to live on this planet in the future, to be able to experience the world as we experience it, and the wildlife and the ecology of organisms around the world. That's my goal. That is what I plan on. Until Yahweh is a telepathic gorilla. Oh, goodness. All right, so are you guys ready to move into woke dinosaur territory? Is this something that you have been looking forward to? Yes, it's great to have you here, Wooly. Thank you for coming. Because science marches on. Old depictions become new depictions. Understandings grow and reconstructions change. The way that we view and depict the ancient world is especially subject to this as we learn more from the fossil record. This is probably no more prevalent than it is in the world of dinosaurs. Now, in the last 45 years, we've seen a great change in the way that dinosaurs were depicted. My childhood put me at the cusp of this, so it was very impactful for me as an individual to participate and be part of these changes that take place. So the dinosaurs of my childhood were slow and sluggish, and they died out because maybe they were dumb. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they couldn't compete. They were big, slow reptiles. Couldn't compete. Contend with the mammals. Couldn't contend with the changing environment. And died out because of that. Now, some of that obviously there's some retention, and I don't want to point any fingers, but among the boomers, that the reptilian stop motion claymation dinosaurs of the 60s and 70s are the superior model. They are masculine and amazing, and they are truly these mega movie monsters that are battling it out constantly on this primitive what's the word I'm looking for? Not archaic, but let's say pre-Diluvian landscape. But they were animals. Bottom line, they were animals. They were animals, guys, and they did not live like that. They did normal things like normal animals do today. Yeah, we can watch the lions hunting the gazelle and battling at their territorial disputes. We can also watch their hours and hours of slumbering in the sun and playing with their cubs and grooming and social grooming and mating. And there's so much more to their lives than just watching them take down prey and fight with each other. And this upsets a few people. This was punctuated very, very recently, April 13th, as you can see here on this timestamp, with this new series David Attenborough is doing about T-Rexes. Now, you see the depiction on the right here with the big sharp teeth and no lips, and then we have the T-Rex here with the lips that looks more like a real animal would. Because it's the current idea is that dinosaurs probably had lips to cover their teeth. Yes, there are archosaurs who do not have lips, namely crocodilians, but due to their aquatic environment, they have a completely different ecological niche, and you can make an argument things like Spinosaurus may not have had lips, but there's no reason to believe that the Theropods would not have had lips to help them retain saliva to keep their mouths from drying out for feeding efficiency. That's why we have lips. If you sit there with your teeth exposed, smiling all day, your teeth dry out, and it's bad for them, and they decay. Anyway, but we're calling this PC Rex. Today's episode is going to go over. I already see that this is 11:23, and I'm just now starting on this what I was most excited to talk about today. PC Rex. Sir David Attenborough's BBC One's dinosaur show presents softer, woke version of T-Rex. Woke Beeb bosses are to reframe the reputation of the terrifying Tyrannosaurus Rex, claiming the raptor had a bad rap. Tyrannosaurus Rexes are not raptors. They are not Maniraptorans, which is what an organism must be in order to be considered a raptor, which would, of course, place all modern birds into the raptor group under that name, Maniraptora. Also, the famous Velociraptor Deinonychus, Troodont, Microraptor Archaeopteryx, all these things are raptors, but you know who is not? The Tyrannosaurs. They are Cellulosaurs, and yeah. Anyway, in the show, Sir David Attenborough comes face to face with a gentler version of the dreaded T-Rex. And here's our old-timey depiction of T-Rex. That's the Jurassic Park T-Rex's head on there. All right. Through the magic of CGI, the documentary features host Sir David Attenborough coming face to face with a gentler version of the dreaded T-Rex. Director Matthew Thompson said, "The Predator often gets a bad rap on TV. They're shown as eating machines, as if that's all they really do. We wanted to show a different side of the creatures and come up with some storylines that are a little bit different and a little bit gentler." Executive producer Helen Thomas also wanted to counteract the image of dinosaurs by showing how mundane their lives were when they weren't ripping each other's throats out. I have a funny quote from her here. She said, "Predators tend to just fight all the time, and we wanted to show them pooing." BBC, pooing. We say pooping in the U.S. In the 90-minute special, which airs on BBC One tomorrow at 6:30 p.m., Sir David will showcase the findings of a team of paleontologists, so actual dinosaur doctors, dinosaur experts is whose findings he's going over. They were able to re-examine the final moments before the dinosaurs were wiped out by an asteroid hitting the Earth 66 million years ago. The team has shed new light on the cataclysm through the first discovery in a prehistoric graveyard of the fossilized remains of a dinosaur that was killed directly by the impact. So it's I haven't watched it yet, but yeah, there's a show coming out that I'm gonna have to watch it because I'm gonna have to after I do this, I'm gonna have to drop some kind of review on it. They have also unearthed a fragment of the destructive meteor perfectly preserved in amber, just like the dinosaur blood-carrying mosquitoes, which feature in Jurassic Park. I think that's the full article on that. So that is what The Sun has released about the BBC documentary. So people went crazy about this, but it wasn't the first time, and we're going to get into some other tweets and stuff here in a minute. But this isn't the first time. Now, a couple of years ago, 2019, Sue, the T-Rex from the Field Museum, which I have been able to go see directly myself, had her on her Twitter account, or proxy Twitter account. It's not actually Sue. Obviously, the fossilized dinosaurs, not tweeting itself. But the Chicago Field Museum involved a 67 million year old reptile in the culture war activism that harms science and degrades gender non-binary. Degrades the gender non-binary. Oh, this is from medium.com. Sue, a 40-foot long Tyrannosaurus Rex whose fossils remains presided over the magnificent Stanley Field Hall at Chicago's Field Museum from 2000 to 2018, has attained social justice enlightenment. And again, I saw Sue in 2018. She was closed off in like a wooden section where they were working on her new display. So I didn't get to see the new model yet, but it looks really cool. I've seen pictures of it. Never mind that she died millennia ago in what is now South Dakota, then in an area of balmy floodplains abutting an inland sea. Taking a page from the Creation Museum playbook, the field administrators have decided to distort scientific understanding in pursuit of a political goal. No, they haven't. In recent years, through her social media persona, Sue has asserted her gender identity. It all started on Twitter on March 2017, reacting to a comment. Sue tweeted that her sex was unknown and that, like a human gender non-binary people, she should use they, them pronouns. Yeah, because we don't know whether Sue was male or female. It was early on, it was assumed that she was female based on some anatomical features, but that has further been put under scrutiny, and now there's an uncertainty regarding the sex of the specimen. So yeah, using they, them, and it's just and having showing support for a marginalized portion of the community is not woke. It's definitely not taking a page from the Creation Museum playbook saying that that non-binary people exist is not a creationist playbook. Saying that that if you don't know what sex an organism is, that you just say they, them when referring to them in their actions. Yeah, that's not woke. Sorry, you don't understand how language works, medium.com. While it is true that her sex is indeterminate, this move conflates the exclusively human concept of gender and the incontrovertible reality of binary sex. Sue was either male or female. We don't know which. This purposeful misunderstanding has now made its way into her new exhibit. Opened on the museum's upper level in December of 2018, in a world where even some scientists claim erroneously that there is no such thing as biological sex, this sets a dangerous precedent. No scientist is... What scientist do you think is saying there's no such thing as biological sex? They're just saying that biological sex is not as binary as you seem to think it is. And those are scientists. So you're going to say scientists are erroneous. You need to present data for it, not just make the claim and run. In addition to informing visitors, the museum's patronizing move is in deeming Sue non-binary, disrespects and misunderstands the very non-binary individuals it purports to help. Are you offended by Sue, my NB live chat? Ring, I see you're in here. Are you offended by Sue's NB status? I thought you'd be empowered by it. Yes, you have an ally in this amazing animal. It does not disrespect anybody. Legitimacy of their identity need not rest on inaccurate interpretations of science. It's not inaccurate. It's saying we don't know the sex of the organism, so there's no way to say that it is male or female. It is degrading to imagine that it should. The very concept of gender identity is as distinct from sex was created to assert that human male, female, and other identity expressions were facts which were mental, social, and not genital. You think sex is based solely on genitals? No, there's people with an assortment of genitals with various chromosomes that don't necessarily match the XX or XY that you generally associate with male or female genitals. It's not that simple. With apologies to Sue and her reptilian cousins, they simply don't have enough going on in their minds to express gender non-binary identities. Not to mention, we don't know anything about the mind of an animal whose brain rotted away maybe 1 million years ago, before the Chicxulub asteroid event wiped out the rest of the T-Rex species anyway. Anyway, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but that's just to say that this isn't the first time that dinosaurs have been accused of being woke. We're not going to read this one yet. What I have is some different, from some different tweets and stuff, from different various social media sources, and a couple of magazines and stuff too. But let's see what the plebes have to say about woke dinosaurs. I'm going to run for office on a platform that'll remove all those gay dinosaurs with feathers from the museum display, and you know I'll win, because bro dudes are really pushing the notion that feathered dinosaurs are part of the gay agenda, that they are there to make the dinosaurs appear more gay, which is fine with me. I mean, I don't mind the feathered dinosaurs being used as a mascot for the LGBTQ community, for the gays specifically, as this tweet says. I don't mind that at all. Colorful animals to represent a movement is not a new concept, but no, we didn't put feathers on dinosaurs specifically for that. The feathers were discovered in the fossil record. Can I be honest? I kind of hate the new idea that dinosaurs had feather. Not a new idea, unless the new idea originated in the 1860s, because we've had feathered dinosaurs since then. 1860s is a long time for you to be calling it a new idea. I mean, the evidence that they have is basically peach fuzz on some fossilized bones. It's not peach fuzz, it's feathers, not peach fuzz. We actually have fossilized feathers, literal feathers. That's hardly enough to rewrite dinosaur books to make them into gay Sesame Street rejects. Nobody's raking them in. This is crazy, because there's Dixie is this person's name. They have this really strong Patriot American notion where half these people have a bald eagle as their avatar while they're complaining about feathered dinosaurs. Define irony. The bald eagle is a hyper-masculinized feathered dinosaur that people on the right have worshipped for decades. This one here is the one that inspired me to make this my Hive Science today. I had something completely different. I had something completely different on the docket, and now I had to move it around because this came out, and I wanted to strike while the iron was hot and get a response to these things before they gain traction. Are you ready for me to read this brain rot to you? Please sit down, grab yourself a cold drink, and listen to Man Baby. Okay, guys, so the new trailer for a TV series called Prehistoric Planet was released a few days ago, and just about every paleo nerd on YouTube has been creaming themselves over the scientifically accurate depictions of tyrannosaurs and raptors on the show, which is narrated by David Attenborough, saying that I'm currently appealing an ideologically motivated permaban on Reddit and can't vent about it there. I wonder why you got banned from Reddit, my friend. I'll share my thoughts here instead, if the mods will permit me to rant. The pedantic obsession with scientific accuracy in our depiction of prehistoric life is taking all the fun out of our beloved dinosaurs. Because your beloved dinosaurs that aren't scientifically accurate did not exist. Scientists doesn't care about your fantasy of giant monsters that fight each other all the time. That's not what science wants to address. I understand that paleontologists don't want their field to be misrepresented and that the entertainment industry believes it is now has to the responsibility to educate the public about such things. But come on, yeah, we want an educated public who knows how these animals actually were, so that when I come on YouTube to engage with people, that they know what dinosaurs were actually like and not a Hollywood interpretation of them. Because it makes no sense for me to debate science with somebody who's debating fiction. Just because one clade of dinosaur might have gone on to develop feathers, that doesn't mean we will have to stick feathers on every damn theropod. Why would a creature as large as a Tyrannosaurus develop feathers anyway? It wouldn't have any use for them. This highlights another problem. The fact that the supposedly more accurate reconstructions look downright goofy compared to the reptilian aesthetic. I'm sorry that you feel that way. We have feathered reptiles today that look pretty awesome. Eagles, like I just said a few minutes ago, eagles look amazing. They are apex predators, most of the kings of the sky, the most efficient flying predators that we have in the world today. And they're flying dinosaurs with feathers. They're feathered dinosaurs. I bet you think eagles are pretty cool. I don't know you, but I bet you do. What else was I going to say? Yeah, as far as I'm not saying T-Rex had feathers, at least not a full plumage of feathers. It didn't. There's no real evidence to support that at this point. There are other Tyrannosaurids that had feathers. I'm not saying that Tyrannosaurus Rex didn't have feathers either, at least some kind of feathers. There are a lot of use for feathers other than flight. They can be used for display. They can be used for thermoregulation. They can be used to protect nest. There are a few dozen different uses for feathers other than flying. And that's like saying an elephant's too big to have hair. But if you get close to an elephant, I promise you'll see hair there. So, yeah. Those who claim to prefer the feathered versions are no different than virtue signaling liberals who say, I prefer girls with curves. Who doesn't prefer girls with curves? Oh my goodness. And saying that you're not fooling anyone. Obesity isn't synonymous with beauty, and feathered dinosaurs certainly aren't synonymous with cool. But feathered dinosaurs can be cool. Again, reference eagles. If eagles aren't your thing, I reference cassowaries. Cassowaries are feathered dinosaurs that are badass. If you're not into that, how about some penguins? Penguins are pretty wicked sea predators, and they are pretty badass. And in the water, they're amazing. I don't know if you know about how penguins interact under the water, but they're like amazingly gliding around and athletic and energetic. They're really cool feathered dinosaurs. There are so many feathered dinosaurs that are cool. Where was I? And as far as thick girls, I love thick girls. I love it. It's just my thing. It sucks, and all of us with eyes in our heads can see that. Anyone who says otherwise is a dirty, rotten liar. I guess you can call me a liar. They're taken to the most awesome creature that ever lived and turned them into a joke. No, it wasn't a creature that lived. The depiction that you have in your head is not a creature that lived. It wasn't a real thing. It wasn't a real animal. Your fantasy doesn't have any bearing here on how we should depict these organisms. They've taken the most awesome creature that ever lived and turned them into a joke, into the object of ridicule. Why? Why do you feel that way? They're supposed to be reptiles, and reptiles don't have fucking plumages. I beg to differ. I just named a whole slew of reptiles with feathers. Eagles are reptiles with feathers. Penguins are reptiles with feathers. Cassowaries are reptiles with feathers. Go stick some feathers on a crocodile and see how stupid it looks, because crocodiles are not dinosaurs. Dinosaurs have feathers, not crocodiles. So that's weird. Dinosaurs should not look like crocodiles. They should look like dinosaurs. Where was I? This highlights another problem. In fact, the supposedly more accurate reconstructions look downright goofy compared to the reptilian aesthetic. Disagree. Honestly, I effing love science types fawning over feathered dinosaurs make me sick. These are the same people who jizz their pants when they see a black woman with an afro in a cosmetic commercial. Afros can be sexy, sure. They know the rest of us hate it. You're the fringe, my friend. You're not the rest of us. You're the fringe. They know the rest of us hate it, and that's precisely why they love it. Dinosaurs haven't been around for 65 million years. They couldn't be less relevant. So why is it suddenly so damn important for kids to grow up seeing the retarded feathered depictions? Oh my God, the dromaeosaur without feathers. If little Jimmy sees this, he might die. They're not saying they might die. They want future generations to know what these animals actually looked like. It's okay for paleontology to march on, for paleo art to march on. And paleo art is what you're complaining about, not paleontology. You're complaining about paleo art, and paleo art is always changing. From the early depictions of antediluvian dinosaurs battling in a world of darkness covered with mucky seas, to Charles Knight's first attempts to try to create scientifically accurate depictions of these animals in Crystal Palace a few decades earlier, making the same efforts to our modern times through the Jurassic Park era and into where we are now seeing feathers being the more mainstream depiction of theropods. I shared these thoughts. Here's his final thoughts on it. I shared these thoughts with my mother, and she thinks it could be tied to the whole LGBT thing. Big carnivorous dinosaurs were pretty cool, pretty masculine, we might say. Why would covering them with feathers, what would covering them with feathers do? It would castrate them. No, because, surprise, surprise, dinosaurs as diapsids did not have external testicles, so you cannot castrate a dinosaur. It would make them kind of gay. Why are feathers gay? Are eagles gay looking? Do you think that hawks and raptors and falcons and cassowaries and spoonbills and do you think these are and storks? Do you think these are gay animals? Do you think birds are gay? I think this is part of a wider societal trend that has been going on for many years now, where everything awesome that brings us joy has to be ruined. It's not ruined, it's more accurate. You are not making a good argument. You're like, why do things change? This is the thing people's like, oh, when Michael Bay redid the Ninja Turtles, it's ruining my childhood. No, it's creating a new childhood for another generation to love the same kind of stuff that you did, but just with an updated version of it for their generation. Now, when it comes to the reconstructions of dinosaurs, each generation has had a new set. And, starting in the 70s, you had the tail-dragging claymation dinosaurs living in swamps with volcanoes, living alongside cavemen. And then the 80s, we moved more towards scientifically accurate. They were less kangaroo stances in our theropods. They were more went from standing like this to standing vertically, like they would with their tails for a counterbalance. Then when the late 80s to early 90s, we started to see feathers taking place. So it's every generation we get a little bit better on the way we depict dinosaurs, and you are raging against that for no reason at all. These people get off on rubbing it in our faces, rubbing our faces in that shit. It's the only way they can feel better about themselves. Have a look and tell me what you think. Really? And I like this person in the side chat's the total chat. I sent this to him and let him know he was that I was doing this to the person who responded here, and they sent me a friend's request. A really cool person. Really? They were animals. You seem less educated than the people who study these for a living. So I'd basically shut your mouth and learn something. Secondly, LGBTQ thing, ban this crap person. Yeah, that was pretty cool of them. Thank you for being an ally. All right. Let me have this from a news magazine here. Tyrannosaurus rex. Some researchers are determined to emasculate Tyrannosaurus, having spent decades fending off accusations that it was a lowly scavenger rather than a ferocious hunter of popular imagination. Now the tyrant lizard is facing another image crisis. As the feather revolution swept paleontology, experts began to ponder the Tyrannosaurus genus. Surely the most charismatic predator of all time could not have been fluffy. No plumage so far has been found on the 50-plus specimens of T-Rex unearthed across North America, but there are some intriguing clues coming from China. I'm not going to delve into this any more than that. I just wanted to take a second to read that about scientists emasculating Tyrannosaurus rex by speculating that because its close relatives had plumage, that it may have had some level of plumage itself. There's no claim saying that it was fully covered in feathers. However, there is indication that it comes from a lineage that did have feathers, so the presence of feathers on the organisms cannot be discounted. Where they were, how they were displayed, and what purpose they served can only be speculated on at this point. But the Tyrannosaurus genus does indicate that it does have ancestry of feathered dinosaurs, and again, not speculative. It is inference based on evidence. What else do we got? Oh yeah, just some basic trolls. F gay feathers, of course. And then we have you got a 4chan here. Gotta always provide the highest quality of content and opinions. Feathered dinosaurs are propaganda to make them seem silly and emasculine. Because conventional dinosaur reconstructions resemble dragons from traditional European folklore too much, and the Jews can't have young white boys idolizing those. The Jews. Okay, I'm guessing that this is a Q person, probably, but yeah, we got more. Are Jews running the museum industry now and the paleontology world? Is that the claim that we're making? Clearly, this feathered dinosaur thing is part of the gay agenda. Science ruined the dinosaurs. Ridiculous. Gay agenda because we found feathers in the fossil record. Were the scientists who found the feathers gay, or were they just pro-gay? Guess we'll find out. All right, and that's about it on the gay dinosaurs. Let me pop out to the side chat. I'm sorry that the show went on extra long today. I just had a lot to say about this. That's why homophobes punch all facts in the arm to see that they can take it. If not, the facts are considered gay. Yes, Scott Duke, facts can be gay. Once again, David Attenborough, narrator, plus John Farvo, director. Hans Zimmer score, constant rabbit fanboying from Rank. Yeah, this series looks freaking amazing. I haven't watched it yet, and I will give a opinion on it once it comes out. The author is really saying, I don't like it when people call me out on being wrong. None of us do, but try handling it with some modicum of decorum like an adult. Thank you, Maya. I'm also trying to keep my decorum. Prehistoric Planet just gave me the Attenborough, Farvo, Zimmer trifecta. I know, right? I'm so excited about this. Do they think that feathers are like Liberus cost? Yeah, the dinosaurs, when the dinosaurs come out, they grow feathers. I had something else tagged to talk about on this, and I may revisit it at some point. There's an episode of Prehistoric Rancher, which is a preschooler show in which a couple of gay Tyrannosaurus rexes are sad that they can't have their own eggs and using rocks for eggs and trying to take other dinosaurs' eggs because they want eggs of their own. It's a cute episode that really does punctuate acceptance, and people flip their lids about it because it's a children's show. But gay people exist, and I don't know why having gay characters in a kid's show is a problem unless you're trying to hide your kid from the fact that gay people exist, which is a weird thing to do because they're eventually going to find out that there are gay people. Particularly nasty weather. John Hudson, I hope you all are doing all right and staying safe. The Allosaurus and Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World was depicted as toad-like. Yes, that's a good, perfect example of how paleontology and fiction, I guess I should say. That's the main focus on here, how they're depicted in fiction. Because people are flipping their lids about the Jurassic Park theropods, too. There is I can't remember which species of raptor it is, but there's a raptor in there that is fully feathered. Yeah. All right, so thank you so much for joining me today. And I really appreciate all the love the Hive received from everybody in the side chat. And I hope that today's show was entertaining, a little something different. I know, I did say it ran long. We're running up into noon now, 2.5 hours. Usually I keep the show under 2 hours, but this had to be talked about. This had to be addressed. I could not let this go unchecked. Gay dinosaur agenda. Let's make it a thing. Woke T-Rex is the. Oh gosh, I almost forgot to mention that the Sun, that headline they had, they spelled it capital T dash REX. It should be a period. That's binomial nomenclature. You take the genus name, the first letter of the genus name, put a period behind it, or you can spell the whole name out. But for T-Rex, it's you take the genus name, put a period behind it, and then type the word Rex in lowercase, REX. You do not put a dash between it. That's just not how binomial nomenclature is going to be presented. That's not correct. But thank you so much, everybody who came and hung out with me today. The gay penguins steal eggs. That's true. I had a meme of that as well that didn't quite make it on the cutting room floor, but there was a lot of anti-gay dinosaur stuff that was the cream of the crop, and some of the responses in the comments did include memes of gay penguins and things like that. I so dislike bigotry, including bigotry against trans people. I blame religion for being the source of a lot of bigotry. I agree with you, Randolph. I think that's a big problem. I think that we can move forward and move past these archaic ideas, and either the church can come with us or get out of the way. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Please remember to be kind, take care, and we will see you next time.